So let's run it, right? So main stripe. All right, so you can see here in the logs, right, what is happening, right? So we start, we get the customers, all good, done. Now, step 2, let's get products, all good, done. Now the same for transactions, all good, done. All right, so when it finishes, it just says all done, right? If we go to the sheet, you can see here the tabs were created. What's up, guys? So short and sweet how you can connect Stripe to a Google Sheet using the API. So I have these two charts here that will help me explain what we're going to do today. So basically, we want to get customers, products, and transactions using the API, Stripe API, and then we move that data to a Google Sheet, right? So this chart here basically is how the code will look like in AppScript, right? We're gonna have a file that's gonna be called main, and then in this file we're gonna have a config and the main function. Then we're gonna have another file called helpers, and here we're gonna have a function to write to the sheet, and then another function that's gonna help us with pagination. I'm gonna explain what pagination is in a minute. And then we're gonna have another file called fetchers, and this one is gonna help us fetch customers, products, and transactions, right? So each of them we're gonna be a function. So let's do it. So we are here in the spreadsheet. It's brand new. I don't have anything, so you can see how I'm doing everything from scratch. So what you do is you go to extensions and then AppScript. And then once you're in AppScript, let me make this bigger so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so once you are here in AppScript, as I mentioned, we need 3 files. We need one main, one helpers, and one called fetchers. So that's what we're gonna do. So let's rename this one first. We can call it main. Then this one is gonna be helpers. And let's have another one called fetchers. Fetchers. Okay. Cool. All right. So let's start with main and explain what each function is doing, right? So we need a config and then the main function. So this is the config. So we have the config here, right? So this config, this is the variables that we're gonna have in the config. The Stripe secret key. So this is the only thing that we need from Stripe in order for us to get data with them. So how to get that data, right? So we have, if you go to home, you can see here that you have these 2 keys. So you can just get the second one, right? The one that is called second key. Just get that, and then you paste it here. Then we need the API base. I just put it here in case something changes, maybe the version changes, but this is the latest version 1. So you can just have it like this. Then the page limit. This page limit is because the way an API works is that it doesn't give you all the information at once, right? It's like a book. You can think of it like a book. So the first time that you make the first request, it's gonna give you the first page. Then you can do things. Then you request the second page, and so on and so forth, right? So for the first page, we want to get 100 items. In this case, I don't have many items. I just doing a demo, so I just created some fake transactions. Let me go through that so you can see what I'm saying. So for example, here, balances, non-transactions, you can see I created 2 transactions, fake transactions. This is a demo account. For customers, I created 2 fake customers, and then products, I created 3 products, just to show you how it works. So yeah, so as I just have like 3 products in this case, so this doesn't really matter. But let's say you have like, more than 100 products or something. Well, you need to, like, the first page you're gonna get 100, and then the second page you're gonna get more, and so on, right? And then this is just for like naming the sheets, how we want the tabs to be named. So for customers, gonna be Stripe customers, transaction sheet is gonna be Stripe transactions, and products sheet name is gonna be called Stripe products. Simple. All right, so now we need the main, right? So this is the main. You can see I added some comments here so you can see what each function is doing, and also there are some steps within the functions, but in this case I don't have it, but I will show you in a minute. But okay, let's explain this. So main stripe. So this one is just a try and catch in case something breaks here in any of the, maybe something breaks when you were trying to get customers or products or transactions. Doesn't just, breaks everything. Just, you could spot where the issue is. So I think this is handy. But in this case, we are just, printing, okay, we're gonna start getting the customers. We run the function get the customers. Okay, that's done. Then we continue. Now we're getting products, run the function products, same thing, same for transactions. And then if something happens, well, we catch the error and then we print the error. And in this case, we throw the error so we know, we can spot, okay, where the issue was. But if everything is fine, shouldn't break. Okay, so now once we have main, we go to helpers. So in helpers, we need one function that's gonna write to a sheet, and then we need another one that's gonna handle pagination. So this is the one that we need. This is gonna be like a helper, right? So you see we're passing the sheet name, the header, and the rows. So the sheet name will be like, okay, what will be the name, right? These names here, any of these. Then the headers, I will explain what headers here is here, but basically it's like what will be the headers of each sheet. And then the rows is just where we want data to be written. So here we're getting the spreadsheet, and then we're saying like, okay, if the spreadsheet, let's get the one of the sheets, right? So this is helpful in case we don't have the sheet. As you can see, I don't have it. It's just sheet number one. So when this gets to here, it's gonna be like, okay, we don't have a sheet with that name, we wanna create it, right? So insert a sheet with that name, and then we just clear the content of that sheet, and then we paste the data. That's what this helper is doing here. Okay, so now we need this second function, pagination. So the function for pagination is this one. Okay, so pagination, what is pagination? Pagination, as I mentioned, is that the API doesn't give you everything at once when you make a request. So it just shows you the first page, and then if you need more pages, you request the second page and the third page. So that's what pagination is. And the way it works with Stripe is that at the end of the request, the first page, for example, is going to give you, okay, has more items after this page. If it is true, means there are more things, right? So we need to make a request to the following page. But if this is false, well, we just finish, right? Because there's nothing else to get. So you can see, for example, this while, it's just while it's true, meaning like, well, there's more information. You keeps repeating this over and over again until it gets to false. Okay, let's start with what we're getting, right? So we're getting the path and params. So path is basically, because this is gonna be a helper, right? We're gonna use it in each of the fetchers here. So the path is, as I mentioned, we need to make three fetchers, right? One for customers, one for products, and one for transactions. So each of them has a different endpoint, right? So one is for customers, the other one is products, and the other is transactions. So we don't want to repeat the same code, which is making the same request over and over for the three fetchers. We're just gonna have this one that is gonna help us to make the request, right? So we get the path, okay, which path we're gonna use, and then the params, what we're gonna send in the request. In this case, we get this path, and then we just build the base URL. So the first part is what we have here in config, this, and then the second part is just what we get, right, as an endpoint. And then here we start with a cursor null, meaning we don't, first page is the page is 0, so we're gonna start from the first one, and then we just start running the function, right? So as you can see here, the first step is building the query. You'll be just getting the base URL, and then the params, and then we're just building the query that we're gonna use to make the request. And then here we make the request itself, right? So we're gonna use URL fetch app to make to fetch the URL. The method is gonna be always get, and then we just pass the Stripe API key. Make sure you have the bearer here. So this API key is coming from config, right? This one here. And then that's it. You can turn this to true if you want, if you want to see more logs in case something breaks, but in this case I just put it as false. And then once we get the data, we parse it as a JSON. And then here we're handling pagination, right? So we get the last part of the JSON and say like, okay, has more data. If true, just continues, right? So the cursor updates, makes another call, but in case there's nothing, it just breaks. So you can see here, meaning the function just finishes. So now let's go with the fetchers. Okay, so here in fetchers, the first function that we're gonna build is get customers, right? So again, we have a comment here, explains that this is for getting the customers. And then here in this function, we're doing three things. So the first one is we are pulling the data, right? So as you can see, we're using the helper that we just created here. And we are passing the endpoint, which is gonna be customers. And then we are not passing any params. And then here is gonna return the customers, right? Because here, as you can see, the return was the end of the all the data that we collected. That was what it's returning. So here, customer is gonna be that, and then we set up the headers for the sheet. In this case, we're gonna just get ID, email, name, and phone number. But you can edit this if you want. If you wanna bring more details. And then here in rows, basically what we're doing is mapping the response with what we're gonna write in the sheet. So it's written in order. And then here we just call the other helper that we have, right, table to sheet, right? So this one here. Again, just you can see we're gonna use the sheet for customers, we receive the headers, and then what will be the rows, right? The data that we just mapped here. So that's pretty much how it works for customers. So let's do the same now for transactions. So this is the one for transactions. And basically here we're doing also three steps, right? So we're fetching transactions and same logic, right? We using the same helper here to fetch. But in this case, the thing that's changing is only balance transactions, the endpoint, right? And here we also not passing params. I just leave it here in case you want to pass something, any filters or something that you can use with the API. But in this case, I just want to write. I just want to pull everything. So that's why I didn't change this. And then here in header, this is the headers, right? So this is the data that I want: ID, amount, currency, the type, description, status, and the fee. And then here we're doing the same thing that we were doing here, some mapping, right? So we get the response and we just map it with in the same order that we want to build the table there in the spreadsheet. And then here we just write that, right? So again, we're passing all the sheet name transactions. It's gonna be this one. Then the headers, this one, then rows, right? The mapping. Same thing. And now let's do the same thing, but in this case, it's gonna be for products. So this is the one for products, right? So this one looks cleaner, smaller. So you can see same idea, right? So we are also using the same fetcher here, the helper that we have. But in this case, the only thing that we change is the endpoint. In this case, is products. Then this will be the headers. I want to get the ID, name, active, if it is active or not, product, and the description, right? And then here we do some mapping, and we use the same function to write to a sheet, right? So this is pretty much how it looks like. Okay, I don't know if, let me make this maybe smaller so you guys can see it. Yeah, I think. Yeah, but you can see the code in the description, right? Yeah, you guys can see the code here better, I think. So now we can test this, right? So let's just save it and then let's go to main, and this is the one that we need to run, right? As I mentioned, this is just for like, it's gonna try and catch. Just this is, helpful in case something breaks, we know what happened. We add some logs just to make it cleaner so we see what happening in the background. So let's run it, right? So main stripe, the first time that you run this, it's gonna ask you for access. So just give it access, advanced, and then here you select this one, select all. All right, so you can see here in the logs, right, what is happening, right? So we get the customers, all good, done. Now, step 2, let's get products, all good, done. Now the same for transactions, all good, done. All right, so when it finishes, it just says all done, right? And that's it, if we go to the sheet, you can see here the tabs were created, right? So we have a Stripe customers. So let me make this bigger. So we have here the ID that we wanted, right? The email. So you can see, for example, let's go check customers. So you see it's the customers. And then what else we have here? Name and phone number, right? So name is the name. I didn't add a phone number for this test, but if I were to put it, it will be there. And then what else we have here, right? So Stripe products. So I asked for the ID name. So let's check here, products catalog. So you can see here we have 3 products. We should see 3 products here. For the IDs of them, the names. If it is active, it is active. I just created them, right? And then the description. I don't have any descriptions on, yeah, but I mean, usually you will have a description for your product, right? And then the last thing, okay, the last, this is transactions. I think this is the most useful one in case you are like doing some accounting or something. I think this is the one that will be the most useful for you guys. So for transactions, we wanted to get the amount, currency type. So if we check the transactions here, you see that I have 2 transactions. So you see them here. So one for 40 and one for 200. This is here. And then we also, the currency in this case is USD, the type, this is a charge. Description, I just put this for testing, status pending, and then the fee of each transaction. But you can pull whatever you want, right? There are more details that you can bring. This is just for testing, so I just pull this data. So that's pretty much how it works. The Stripe API, as you can see, is pretty straightforward. What I will suggest you guys can do here is, you can play with these 3 functions here. Right, so you can, let's say you want to get more details from customers, so you can just, edit the headers and add more headers here, and the same logic, you can just map that when you're doing the rows here. You can check the documentation, you can pull up a lot of stuff. Same here for transactions, same logic, just modify the headers, and then in the mapping, do that. Just keep in mind that, for example, here, when you pull in numbers from Stripe, usually gives you like the number super large. So you gotta divide that by 100. So it kind of makes sense. Keep that in mind. And then same for products, you can pull more things here. You edit the headers, you map that here in rows, and then you just pull that. So you can see this function, right? Table to sheet, it's pretty dynamic, right? So it's not hard coded what it sends. Like literally receives whatever and it's gonna write it to a sheet, right? So that's pretty handy here. You can just keep adding things here and here, and it's gonna write whatever you want. All right, guys. So this is it. I hope it is helpful for any of you. Give me a like, a subscribe. It helps. And if you have any questions, just feel free to drop them there in the comments section. I will reply to them as soon as I see them. And as always, the code is free. You can see them in the description. Just go to a link and you can get the code for free.